So welcome to another episode of this video series. And with this segment, we would like to spend some time talking about the history of thermo-scientific Nicolet FTIR spectroscopy and our instruments. And this is a story that started over 50 years ago. And I feel really fortunate that some of the colleagues that were here in some of those early days are here with us for this segment to talk about the history of the development of the instrumentation, the software technology. And so I'll kind of pause and let you both introduce yourselves. So Steve, would you like to start?
Hi, I'm Steve Lowry. I have worked for Nicolet for 40 plus years, and I was actually one of the first users of their FTIRs as a customer in a company called Diamond Shamrock near Cleveland. And we had, some people claim it was the first Nicolet FTIR because that's where Pittsburgh Conference was held that year. But I think that's legend. But got familiar. I received a PhD in analytical chemistry from the University of North Carolina before that. And I believe that Professor Tom Eisenhower, who was my research director, was really one of the first initiators of chemometrics. It was a very interesting time. We called it linear learning machines, and Gary was really the brains behind developing some of those algorithms way, way back when computers were just starting. And as I said, I was a happy customer of Nicolet's for 3 years, and I got to know one of the applications people and one of the service people. And they one day said, "Hey, have you ever thought about working for an instrument company?" And that was the start of being with Nicolet for a long, long time. And that's what I did. And Gary Ritter was also in my same research group as I was, so we've known each other forever.
I'll let you introduce yourself, Gary.
Okay. My name is Gary Ritter. Again, Steve and I have known each other for many above 40 years. So probably 50 years even. Yeah, we've known each other. And as a matter of fact, Steve hired me at Nicolet Instruments at the time. I spent some time after getting my degree from Carolina. I spent some time in the pharmaceutical industry, and I spent 7 years in the pharmaceutical industry and worked for a couple of companies and had gathered some great experience. But much like Steve, I was job looking, and Steve said, "Would you like to come work for an instrument company?" I thought, yeah, that might be fun. And I've been here ever since. So I just celebrated my 40th anniversary. So I'm kind of a new kid to Steve. So in terms of Steve thinks that I'm one of the new kids.
So thank you for the introductions. And one thing I guess I'd like to talk about first is how did Nicolet FTIR become that gold standard that it is today?
I think it really starts with how Nicolet got into the FTIR business. We actually were OEMing a very large, actually humongous interferometer from a different company. And Nicolet's core competency initially was digital signal averagers. And we actually provided OEM data processing systems to several companies. And leading from that, it was focusing on Fourier transform. So they were creating what they called a signal averager at that point. And then some MBA marketing person said, "Oh, maybe we should offer FTIRs." And that inquired putting these signal averagers onto a interferometer. And it turns out at that point, this was a mini computer, and it was one of the best cost performance solutions for doing rapid Fourier transforms. So truthfully, I think we were one of the early leaders in digital spectroscopy and gone from there.
You also have told me some stories about early customer partnerships.
And it's just multiple, but we kind of focused more on the industrial problem solving than the research yet. And it was an interesting time because there was massive innovation both in the spectrometer side and in the data processing side. And I'd like to think we did some pretty good stuff on the data processing side. One of our early projects was with industrial company. So we did and they published a book of infrared spectra. So we worked a deal with them where they had full copyright to the hard copy data, and we had full rights to the digital data, which we then turned into a very, very useful spectral database.
And that's where search started, as far as I'm concerned. Where the search we do now started with Steve, Chuck Anderson, people who these people had the vision of how we might determine what we're measuring.
So Gary, you're really instrumental in our quantitative analysis package and its development over the years. So maybe you could talk a little bit about, we heard about the kind of beginnings of the hardware and instrumentation from signal averaging and early interferometers. What about the other side of the software and the quantitation packages that go with that?
I got here and I started looking at quantitative problems. And I probably had 6 more packages that I put together. And then we decided to combine them all. We decided, wait a minute, this is craziness. Why don't we just do one? And that's where TQ Analyst comes from. The idea is it should be easy to move from classical least squares to these other techniques. Mm-hmm. And that's where TQ Analyst came from. One interesting story is leafing through analytical chemistry, and there's this announcement of this technique called partial least squares. And it was done by people in Norway. And I read the article and I was like, oh my goodness, this is fun. This could be fun. So I programmed the algorithm. That was the start of our ventures into PLS. Normally PLS was done in the near infrared. We're the ones who moved it into the to the mid IR.
Okay. Uh-huh.
And we started using that to do a bunch of our problems.
Well, I want to thank you both for your time and for telling some of these stories. And I'm incredibly grateful that I got to join the team and get to know you both. I'm a firm believer in science. We really do stand on the shoulders of those that come before us, and just to see that you're still here informing and helping to shape how we move into the next generation of technologies as well. So thanks for your dedication, your expertise, and thanks for joining us.